In the land of Umwekete, justice was swift and death was final. But one young man's grave became a doorway, and his enemies learned too late that the ancestors never sleeps. This is the chilling story of Ikemefuna, the orphan who was buried alive, and he rose again. Ikemefuna was born under the blessings of the ancestors. To parents who loved him dearly, his father, Mazi Okonkwo, was not only a wealthy farmer, but also a man whose wisdom was sought by kings and elders alike. His mother, Nne, was the kind of woman whose laughter could heal a weary heart and whose hands never returned from the farm empty. They lived in Umwekete, a village surrounded by rolling hills, fertile soil, and the hum of life. Mazi Okonkwo's barn overflowed with yams, his goats and cattle multiplied, and his compound was filled with the aroma of roasted plantain and palm wine during harvest festivals. Life was very peaceful until the gods allowed the wind of misfortune to blow. One fateful rainy season, a strange and deadly illness crept into Umwekete like a thief in the night. It began with whispers. Someone's uncle had a fever. A child could not stand. An elderly person coughed blood, and soon it became a storm of wails. Nne was among the first to fall. Her skin burned like fire, sweat soaking her wrapper. The village healer pounded herbs and prayed to the spirits, but his medicine was powerless. She passed within days, and her last word to Ikemefuna was, "My son, keep your heart pure. The ancestors sees all things." Mazi Okonkwo was crushed by grief. His strong shoulders, which had carried baskets heavier than most men could lift, now sagged like a wet cloth. He barely ate, barely spoke, and when the same sickness gripped him, his will to fight was already gone. Before joining his wife in the land of the spirits, Mazi Okonkwo entrusted his only child's future to his closest friend, Chief Ugonna. "When my son comes of age," he said, with the voice of a man at the age of life, "give him what is rightfully his." He also sent a word to Ikemefuna's maternal grandmother, Nne Miriam, a woman as unyielding as the Iroko tree, who lived in a neighboring village. After his parents' burial, Ikemefuna went to live with Nne Miriam. She was a tall, regal woman with eyes that could pierce through lies like a spear through ripe plantain. She carried her age with dignity. Her back never bent despite her years. Under her care, Ikemefuna learned that love was not always soft. Sometimes it was firm, some other times even strict. "A man's worth is not in his wealth, but in his character," she would always say as they sat by the fire under the moonlight. "The gods seize the heart, and they reward honesty and punish deceit." She taught him to fish, to farm, to speak truth even when it hurts, and to walk away from a fight that served no purpose. Many men smile with their lips, but hide daggers in their hearts. She warned, "Trust actions and not words." For 8 years, Ikemefuna walked the fields, learned the proverbs of his people, and grew into a man whose eyes carried both kindness and quiet strength. When he turned 18, the whispers of destiny grew louder in his heart. It was time to return to his father's village and claim what was his. Chief Ugonna had changed. In the years since Mazi Okonkwo's death, his belly had grown round from eating the harvest of the land that was not his. His laughter was louder and his eyes colder. When Ikemefuna returned, the chief welcomed him with a smile that was as warm as a snake's breath. "You are like the son I never had," he said, slapping Ikemefuna on the back, but his mind was already sharpening the knife of treachery. As Ikemefuna prepared to leave, the chief ordered a sack of rice for him. "The boy is poor," he shouted so everyone could hear. "Let him not go hungry." But deep inside the sack, hidden under the grains, he slid his gold wristwatch. It gleamed like a snake's eye, bet for the trap. As Ikemefuna stepped out of the compound, he felt the sudden urge to relieve himself. Putting the sack down, he took a quick glance inside, and his blood froze. "This is a trap," he thought. Quickly, he removed the watch and tucked it behind the chief's wall. Moments later, Chief Ugonna's shout split the air. "Thief! My wristwatch is gone!" The villagers gathered. The king was informed. The chief pointed at Ikemefuna with a trembling finger. But when they searched him, nothing was found. Whispers rose among the crowd. Chief Ugonna's face tightened like a drum skin. "Search again," he demanded, but the watch was nowhere on Ikemefuna. Humiliated, the chief was forced to apologize, his voice dripping with insincerity. "Forgive me, my son. I must have misplaced it." But his eyes promised something far worse. The villagers dispersed, murmuring, but Ikemefuna knew this was far from over. Furious at his failed plan, Chief Ugonna plotted something far worse. He paid some bad boys to ambush and kill Ikemefuna on his way to their meeting place. So days later, he approached Ikemefuna again, his voice smooth with false remorse. "Ikemefuna, my son, I was wrong to accuse you. Let me make it up to you. Meet me at the road leading to the river at dawn. I will show you all the lands your father entrusted to me." Ikemefuna, "Don't worry," agreed. On the day of the meeting, as Ikemefuna made his way to the river, he saw an older woman struggling with a heavy bundle of firewood. Remembering Nne Miriam's teaching about kindness, he stopped to help her, carrying the load to her house. This act of mercy made him an hour late. When he finally arrived at the meeting place, there was no one there. Confused, he waited a while before leaving. Later that day, the chief confronted him, his face a mask of fury. "I waited for you. You disrespected me." Ikemefuna explained about the older woman, but the chief scoffed. "Excuses, but fine. Come sleep in my house tonight." Ikemefuna hesitated at the offer from the chief, but because of his persistence, he agreed. That night, Chief Ugonna played the gracious host, serving Ikemefuna and his daughter a meal laced with sleeping pills. As they drifted into unconsciousness, the chief carried them both to his daughter's room, placing Ikemefuna naked beside her. At dawn, the girl woke up screaming, "Father, help!" The chief burst in pretending, shocked. "Ikemefuna, how dare you defy my daughter? Before Ikemefuna could even gather his thoughts, the chief was already shouting for the villagers. Rape! He had raped my child. Remember, in Umwekete, rape was punishable by the individual being buried alive. The crowd, enraged, dragged Ikemefuna away. In Umwekete, when an individual has been accused of a crime that is punishable by the law of the land, the oracle will be informed first, and he will consult with the gods to ascertain if the person is guilty before judgment is pronounced. But in Ikemefuna's case, the oracle, who should have been consulted, was ignored. The chief's influence was too great. Bound and gagged, Ikemefuna was thrown into a deep pit. As the earth covered him, the villagers chanted, believing justice was served, but the ancestors had not spoken. The moment the last shovel of dirt fell, the skies exploded with thunder. Lightning split the heavens, and the ground trembled violently, and then a crack. The earth split open, and Ikemefuna rose, unharmed, bathed in an earthly glow. The villagers screamed, falling to their knees. The oracle, who had not been consulted, rushed forward, his face pale. The gods are angry. This boy is innocent. The truth was revealed. Chief Ugonna had framed Ikemefuna. The gods had spoken. Before dawn, as the chief walked to his farm, a single bolt of lightning struck him dead. The king, trembling, returned all of Ikemefuna's land to him. The villagers, now ashamed, begged for forgiveness. With his inheritance restored, Ikemefuna lived justly. Remembering Nne Miriam's lessons, the story of his survivor spread far and wide, a warning to all who dare betray the innocent. And whenever thunder rolled, the villagers whispered, "The ancestors are watching." The moral of the story: greed leads to destruction. Chief Ugonna's lust for power and wealth led to his downfall. The gods defend the innocent. No matter how powerful the wicked seems, divine justice prevails, and truth cannot be buried. Lies may prosper for a time, but they will always be uncovered.